Beetlejuice, the famous ghost played by the great Michael Keaton, who should never be named 3 times in a row and has left a great fantastic world to explore and many unanswered questions. Who is Beetlejuice really? Why is he called that? We also have some curiosities behind the 1988 recording directed by Tim Burton. His personality and iconic appearance have transcended decades, but what do we know about his origins? Beetlejuice is a ghost who has lived many years before the events we see in the film. We know that he was an assistant when he was alive for Juno, the social worker of the world of the dead. His connection with the world of the dead remains a mystery, but during an interview with the Maitlands, he tells them that due to his behavior, he was fired. The reasons for his death were excluded from the final cut of the film, but in the original script, the reason for his death was suicide, due to love reasons. Beetlejuice decided to hang himself in the midst of depression and drunkenness. Since it was a dark story, this was omitted as it was not compatible with the comic tone of the film.
You bunch of losers! How dare you here?
If we talk about the reason for his name, we can find the easy explanation during the film, as on many occasions we see him eating and feeling a special weakness for the insects that he likes to eat. It could be said that Beetlejuice would be his favorite drink. Although we see this wordplay in one scene, we also notice that the name he uses for the advertisements, where he advertises himself, is not exactly his name, as it is written differently. Although phonetically they sound the same, contrary to what many think, the character was not created by Tim Burton, but by Michael McDowell. While working on a horror script inspired by mystery and darkness, he gave life to a demon with the ability to metamorphose to terrorize his victims, and his name was Betelgeuse. This name refers to a star in the constellation of Orion. Tim Burton loved the character and added a tragicomic tone and an extravagant personality for the final cut of the film. By decision of the producers, his name was finally changed to Beetlejuice, thinking that it would be easier to pronounce and make that play on words between beetle and juice. In some countries like Spain, his final name was simply Betelgeuse. Regarding his appearance, we always see him with that pale gray or almost white skin tone, with some green spots, as if his skin was in a state of decomposition. In addition, around his eyes, he also has some iconic dark circles, and in his teeth, we can see that he is one of those who brushes them often. This gives him a grotesque appearance and is very similar to that of a zombie. All this could indicate that he really is someone who has lived more than 600 years, since the ghost himself comments that he lived during the Great Black Plague that happened in 1350. But being a very misleading character, we cannot take that comment as entirely true. Another theory is that his appearance as a ghost may be the cause of his death, since, as we see in the world beyond, the deceased maintain the essence of that which led them to that painful fate.
Want a cigarette?
Oh, no, thank you.
It's what happens when they die. It's all very personal. And I'll tell you something.
By having a selfish attitude, we see that his personality is like that of the typical annoying and insistent salesman. He only wants to offer his bioexorcism services no matter what. But his real intentions are to escape from his curse, the one that condemns him if they say his name 3 times, both to leave and to return him to the world of the dead. That is why he wanted to rush his marriage to Lydia during the film, since marrying a person from the world of the living would break the curse. The original script presented by Michael McDowell was much darker, and finally, Larry Wilson adapted it to a more comic genre. For example, the scene of the death of the Maitlands was more detailed and explicit. Finally, only the situation of the crash and sinking of the car was included. Another change was the motive of the ghost. At first, it was not to scare them, but to kill them. Lydia, Winona Ryder's character, was not going to have as much prominence, since she had a younger sister who was the one who could really see the ghosts. Another big change from the movie was that in order to defeat Beetlejuice, they performed an exorcism. Ultimately, only the rule of naming him 3 times to banish him from the world of the living was added. We know that these last changes were finally polished by Warren Skaaren, the 3rd screenwriter of the film. Another important scene that underwent changes was the world where the worm lives. Initially, it was only going to be a few gears that turned, and as they moved, they destroyed the fabric of space-time. But as it was too confusing, this scene was removed and replaced by the fantasy desert that we saw in the film. In 2018, a test run of a theatrical musical based on the film was presented. It was a huge success, and after triumphing on Broadway, it was produced by Warner Bros. Itself. After being interrupted by the pandemic, from 2022 to the present, they are still touring several cities in the United States, and adaptations have even been made in countries such as South Korea and Brazil.
Grades.
Yes, let's play it.
2 words.
Okay.
Second word.
Right.
Drink.
No.
Beverage.
No.
Wine.
No.
Juice.
Yes.
Okay.
For the role of the antagonist and anti-hero of the film, several names had been considered until Michael Keaton was chosen. But he refused several times because he did not understand the story well. But after meeting Tim Burton, he finally accepted. Many of the scenes were improvised by Keaton himself, as was the final appearance, since it was not detailed in the script.
You look like somebody I can relate to.
The commercial scene is a parody of the Carl Worthington commercial, a car salesman who used to appear in curious advertisements always with animals.
See cow, trouble's over in a flash, go see cow. Get a mother!